With Michael Busch heating back up, are Matt and I considering him a must-add? We're talking Busch and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ine, and you can find him at Twitter at Matthew_Ine. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly to Matt and I, guys, join us on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute episode. And if you do want to give us a chance on Subtext, you can find the link to our Subtext wherever you're listening or watching, or if not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. And this episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. And guys, we have some really great must-add players for you today. And Matt, I think Michael Busch is a great place to start. I know you're a big fan of him. I know you picked him up in a couple of spots recently. So why don't we lead the way with him?
Yeah, Michael Busch, honestly, you know, we talked about a little bit in the off season about how we liked the fact that he was finally getting out of the Dodgers situation and going over to the Cubs. And we said, oh, this could be special. We could finally see who he's going to be. He started off the year hot and, really, was like, okay, got our hopes up, and then kind of teetered off for a bit. He was a little streaky and then kind of, full blown stock falling. But after that, he's now for this last month have been absolutely ridiculous. 14 runs, 4 bombs, 11 ribs, batting .345. This past week, 6 runs, 2 bombs, 4 ribs, .429. This kid is an absolute animal. He has all the metrics that say, hey, I could be really successful in the MLB. It's just a matter of just bringing it all together. He has an xWOBA of 336. He has a slug of 449. His average exit velocity is 89 miles per hour, which is the same as Luis Robert. He's my baseline. I'll always say that. He barrels a good percentage of time. His launch angle is awesome. He doesn't really chase. He does strike out a little bit, but at the same time, he also draws a lot of walks. So he does do a lot of counteracting the strikeouts. So right now, I'm looking at Michael Busch when he's 44% owned, and I'm just like, man, if he's out there, I'm adding him everywhere. I'm either going to ride the heater, and honestly, I might even be a little bit more patient to see if this can kind of come back even sooner. If he does slump a little bit, I might hold him a week through the slump to see if he can kind of bounce out of it a little bit faster than normal and kind of see if he's really got the stuff to be a successful MLB player and not just some like one-hit wonder and, prove the Dodgers right for dodgering him and platooning him the whole time.
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of Michael Busch from the Chicago Cubs myself as well. Has had some really big seasons in the minors. Michael Busch has in 2022 in 142 games. Busch hit 32 homers, 108 RBIs, had 118 runs, and he hit 274. So the hit tool's there, the power's there, the prospect pedigree's there. Michael, as Matt mentioned, Michael Busch 44% owned. That needs to be like 75%, because if he really turns it up the way he has been of late, went 4 for 6 on July 9th with a home run. The day before that, he had a home run. 2 for 5 the day after. His last game on July 11th had 3 runs and 2 RBIs. So while Michael Busch is on the heater, he needs to be on our teams, and I think there's a good chance he just rides the rest of the way out, helping our fantasy teams, having like a 25 homer season with some decent counting stats and a very solid batting average. Let's move on to this next guy who is more of a kind of come out of nowhere type of guy. At least I wasn't aware of him until recently. Rece Hinds of the Cincinnati Reds. He's a big boy too, at 6'4", 215 righty. Has just been an interesting name so far. 3 games. 2 homers, a triple, a double, 4 RBIs, a steal. Don't love the 4 strikeouts to no walks, but when you're doing everything else right, doesn't really matter. Looking at his minor league track record, not really great. Had a really strong 2023 season, Rece Hinds did, with 23 homers, 20 steals, 98 RBIs, and a 269 batting average. So I think we just need to at least look his way now, especially in some of those deeper leagues where I know we're still struggling to find bats, and especially when it comes to outfielders where Rece Hinds is eligible. I think we just need to pick him up, see where the thing goes. He's actually up to 33% owned. So I guess I just kind of ride the wave at Rece Hinds, and that's where I'm at with him.
Yeah, I mean, Hinds is somebody that's kind of like, you kind of ride it while he's ride the wave essentially. He's not known for, a whole bunch of things, in terms of power or anything like that, but he hits half his games in Great American Hitter Park from here on out. So if he even performs just a hair, I'm all about it. So I'm going to ride the wave, and then when he falls off, I'm going to drop him like he's hot. So it is what it is with Hinds.
Matt,
Dom, it looks like I was wrong. Go ahead.
Oh, you know what I was going to say? You know what's an interesting comp? Remember Aristides Aquino?
Yes.
Yeah, remember? So there, some dudes just happens in Great American Small Park. They go on these stretches where, if you guys remember that one, that's a good throwback to just somebody that was really good for a short stretch of time that hit a lot of home runs that played for the Reds. Just thought it was interesting.
Not for nothing, I streamed his way all the way to the championship.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. A guy like this, you just, when you see that power coming, you kind of just want to pick him up and like, hey, where's it going?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what anybody, right? Like you're just trying to stream somebody, and he's the perfect stream candidate. You ride him until the wheels fall off. And the second they do, though, you don't look back. You just say, see you later. But let's move on. I think we spent a whole lot of time on a guy that probably we're not going to talk about in about 3 weeks. And we'll talk about a guy that we will be talking about from here on out every week until as long as he stays healthy. He's another, flanges guy, can't really stay off the IL or out of the hospital room. That's Lars Nootbaar of the St. Louis Cardinals. He's finally back off of the injury. Has 12 at-bats under his belt, and he has 2 runs, a bomb, a rib, and batting .250. Season numbers don't look wonderful either, but again, I think he was playing through some injuries, but when is he not? He had 153 at-bats, 16 runs, 6 bombs, 20 ribs, 3 stolen bases, batting .235. Last year was quasi-impressive, but not the season we thought because, again, he was hurt. I swear, guys got to stop hanging out with Alberto Mondesi in the offseason or Byron Buxton or, Chris Bryant at that point. Just keep them away. Or, I don't know, run a cleansing ritual around yourself after you go and hang out with them. Something. Whatever it takes, because Lars Nootbaar does have a lot of potential. Like, when he is healthy, he hits the ball pretty hard. He does a lot of good things. Now, I can't go off this season because there's not enough for it. But you go back, I'm not even going to look at 23 because it was just not enough. But you look at 22, and this is more of like I'm talking to ceiling, right, for him. His average exit velocity was 91 miles per hour. His ex-WOBA was a 346. His hard hit percentage was 46% of the time. He barely chased. He didn't really strike out, but he walked a lot, and he was able to draw that. The dude is actually quasi-fast, too. 73rd percentile, so he does steal bases. Like, if he could string it together, if he can return to form of 2022, there could be something special in this pickup as long as he can stay healthy from here on out. So I'm going to add him at 28% owned and just see where this journey takes me. There is plenty of injuries out there, and Lars Nootbaar can at least fit in for this time being.
Matt, I got a good nickname for Lars Nootbaar. At least I think it's a good nickname. It sounds good in my head, and I haven't heard it anywhere else yet. No one called him the Candy Man. He was supposed to have his own candy bar called the Nootbaar. I don't know if that ever developed. Somebody in St. Louis, maybe that was just a local thing over there. But I remember hearing him talking about it. The Candy Man. He does a little bit of everything. He's a 5-tool guy.
They gave it out of the hospital, bro.
What happened?
They gave it out of the hospital. Selling in the good
shop.
Exactly.
Because
he spent so much time there.
I'm sticking with it. I'm calling Lars Nootbaar the Candy Man for now. We're gonna stick with it. If you guys like it, sound off in the comments. If you don't, let me know. But once again, 5 tools can, except for maybe the batting average is a little bit questionable, but could definitely steal bases, hit homers. The counting stats should be nice. The underlying stuff in the short sample size this year looks really, really good. Literally everything looks pretty good, at least mediocre at minimum. So with Lars Nootbaar, Matt, you did a good job otherwise breaking down. 28% owned St. Louis Cardinals outfield to go out there and add him now. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Boston Red Sox, and then we'll move into some pitchers. And honestly, we have some really good ones, but once again, that is coming up next.
This episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. With summer travels heating up, especially for traveling for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn about, and yes, even talking about your rival city. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more, Booking.com, you might find the perfect stay even in your baseball rival's city. From hotels that look over the stadium for family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travels in the MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or the Booking.com app. Passion to drive and patience is the formula for winning a championship. It's also to keep your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your ride or die, you'll always have exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the right price you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions may apply. eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, only applicable for U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free on the Amazon Fire TV channel app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As the season unfolds, rely on our dynamic content. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call notifications, and injury actions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of the fantasy leagues by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. And by signing up now, you get a free 2 weeks. So check us out. I promise you won't want to leave us. If you want to know who to prioritize today, you're going to want to check us out. Links in the description below. Take it away, sir, because I need a gulp and a half.
I got you, brother. And you know what? Just going to keep things pushing. Let's talk some Masataka Yoshida, outfielder for those Boston Red Sox. And he's an interesting one, right? Everyone was very excited about him last year coming into the year. Had a decent year, didn't really blow us away in any particular category. I know he dealt with a bit of injuries. Had the good batting average, couple homers, couple steals. I just don't know why we're not as excited for him this year. I know he dealt with some injuries this year as well, just getting, back into the groove of things. The last 2 weeks, particularly for Yoshida, 4 runs, a homer, 7 RBIs, hasn't stolen a base, but hitting .293, starting to get back on the right track. And at 39% owns, that's a lot of leagues out there. I think that's even going to be some 5 outfielder leagues where Yoshida's not being rostered, and I think we could take advantage of that. Underlying metrics, they don't look great so far, but for a guy that's just really starting to get healthy, I kind of expect that. I would love to break down, what his underlying stats look over the last 2 weeks, but unfortunately I can't do that. But I'm sure they look a lot better overall. But some stuff that does look good on the season, not chasing a lot, not whiffing a lot, not striking out a lot. So I think this is a guy the rest of the way can maybe steal us like 5 bags, hit 10 homers, and just have some good counting stats or some at least decent counting stats somewhere near the middle of that Boston lineup. He's been hitting 5th and 6th of late. I think he could find his way up that lineup once he starts hitting a lot better, which we know Yoshida could do because he has a track record at 30 years old, just being a very, very good hitter for average. So I think he can at least give us that.
Yeah, I mean, Yoshida, I think is like outside of the injury, like I got to give the kid a little bit of benefit of the doubt. And I say kid, he's 2 years younger than me, not to age myself, but you know, he hasn't like last year's underlying stats weren't impressive either. Like I had a lot more higher hopes for him, but you know what? I think there's still better days to come. Anybody could take a step forward. I mean, the game is a lot different here than it is overseas. So maybe this year is the year. Coming when he was coming into the league from overseas, there was a lot of home run upside. There was a lot of just five tool category kind of guy, and it just has never come to fruition. But I think it might for the second half and I kind of want to be a part of it. I want to add him. I want to see what journey we're going to take. But if he's not performing for 2 weeks after I add him, he's more of like if you're in the position to hold a guy that has some possible ceiling play. I wouldn't add him if I'm like fighting to get into a playoff spot right now, or if I'm clawing my way out of last place, which is still possible. So keep listening. So you know, Yoshida's a guy that you want to be patient with. So you want to be able to hold for 2 to 3 weeks. If he's not performing in 2 to 3 weeks, then we're going to dump him and forget about him and never talk about him again. But ultimately, Yoshida does have that upside that could benefit you if you do, make the investment and kind of see where it takes us. But let me move on here. Let's talk about Rowdy Tellez, who's on a heater and a half. Rowdy Tellez is the one guy on this list besides Hinds that the other guy on this list besides Hinds that I think is just we're going to ride this and kind of dump him once he's done because I have no faith in this kid. It's kind of more of just like pump and dump. He's having a fantastic week. 5 runs, 3 bombs, 7 ribs, batting .318. He has 8 home runs on the season. Last year he hit 13. I don't see this kid on pace for 20. This just isn't going to be him. He might finish with 15 by the end of the year, get 2 more, get like 5 or 6 more. It is what it is. He is who he is. And I just think, you know what, you ride it, you pump it, you dump it. Maybe he's a guy you're going to try and push over the weekend while you get a couple days off to then fight for the final championship of the week over next weekend since this is a 2-week start, unless you play in a weird league, and then you should probably quit that league. So Rowdy Tellez is an ad now to stream and nothing but that.
Yeah, Matt, we're pretty much in the same boat there. Like literally like 90% in sync. The thing is, I just think Rowdy does have a bit of power in that bat. Literally, in the last 14 days, he has 5 homers. In 2022, he had 35 home runs in 153 games. I just know there is some power in that bat. I don't know if he's going to tap into it the way he did in 2022, but with that potential, I think he is a solid ad. I do agree in the term that if Rowdy Tellez is not, continuing to at least give us power at bare minimum, he is going to be a drop sooner than later. But just ride the wave, especially at first base, been a little bit tougher of a position this year. Rowdy Tellez playing for those Pittsburgh Pirates is 15% owned. So make sure you go out there and give him a chance if you need a first baseman with a little bit of pop. You know what? Coming up next, though, we will start our starting pitcher segment with some really, really great, interesting names that are some of them widely available. But once again, stick around because that's going to be coming up next. Here on Locked On Fantasy Baseball, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team. Whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs, it's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt, whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that big parlay this season and need help filing correctly. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/locked-on. And once again, you can see the link in the episode description below. And you know that instant confident boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good. That's what I get with Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. If you're somebody like me who doesn't have a lot of time to do all that shopping for the clothes, then you know what? Stitch Fix is the place for you. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. I just give my stylist my size, style, budget, and preferences. I order boxes when I want, how I want, no subscription required, and they send 5 just for me pieces plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's very, very simple. My stylist always sends me just the right pieces, and the fit is always on point. It's like this. My stylist has ESP. I don't know how they do it, but they always get it done perfectly just for me, with a style that makes you feel just as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $100 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of signing up. And then, you know what, let's get right into the starting pitcher segment. Matt, if you would be a dear, my brother, and whoever you're going to grab, just go for it.
All right, we're talking about Yariel Rodriguez. He has actually had a couple good starts. I will say this. Rodriguez, sorry, it disappeared on me, of the Toronto Blue Jays is 14% owned, and he has the Cardinals, I mean, not the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks coming up today as you're listening to it. So he's only applicable for, leagues that have same day ads. Other than that, just skip on through. But he has had a couple good starts. His last start against Seattle, 6 Ks, got the W through 6, got you a quality start, a 0.5 whip, and no earned runs. Went against Houston the week before, went 6.2 innings, had 6 Ks, a 1.35 ERA, a 0.6 whip, and got the quality start again. He hasn't gone too deep in games before that at all, even though he got the starts. About 4 innings, 3.2 innings. Got himself in trouble in about 3 of these innings. But other than that, he has been pretty solid. He has a couple things going for him. I like Yariel Rodriguez. I like the matchup for tomorrow. For today, I'm sorry, we're recording the day before. So, Yariel Rodriguez, I feel, needs to be added and started for the weekend, because if you could add him, obviously, for today, I think he's going to have a pretty good start for you. So I'd add him.
Yeah, Rodriguez is a very interesting name. He actually had a little bit of industry buzz coming into the year as far as, fantasy baseball went. I had heard his name a couple of times. He has literally pitched, all over the world. Pitched in Japan, has pitched in Cuba, has had pretty good results, over his career, has started, has relieved. I just kind of want to ride the wave and, see where the thing goes. Starting pitching has actually fallen off a cliff over the last month or so. And Yariel Rodriguez being 14% owned, and Matt broke down, his last 2 starts have been very good. So if you can, once again, do those same day ads, you pick him up, see where it goes. I'm not sure who he gets after Arizona. Let's see if that's another juicy matchup, because if it is, then you just keep rocking and rolling. And, I always like to say with a guy like this, you pick him up, you see where it goes, and who knows, maybe you look back and he might get Detroit after the All-Star break. Actually, that would be a really interesting one for him. So we could be 2 back-to-back great starts for Rodriguez. So don't necessarily drop him right away if it's a good one after Arizona, because he could have one against Detroit, and we'll ride the wave with them. Let's go from somebody who's really wasn't known at all to somebody who is very widely known if you played or watched baseball all the past few years. Let's talk some Jameson Taillon. Jameson Taillon has been just on an old school Jameson Taillon Pittsburgh prospect streak of late. And honestly, this season numbers look really, really good. It's been 15 starts for Taillon, who's pitching for the Cubs these days. 6 wins, 2.99 ERA, 116 WHIP, 87 innings, 72 strikeouts. Has just really tapped back into the fountain of youth, what really worked for him back in the day. Not really striking out too many guys. Just going with what works. Actually was really good against Baltimore and Philly in his last 2. Had 10 strikeouts against the Mets on June 22nd. And at 46% owned, I just look and I'm like, why is he not more widely owned when we know Jameson Taillon has this track record of being a pretty good pitcher? And, if he's figured it out, I really think we could be in for not an amazing second half, but a very, very good 5th, 6th pitcher in your rotation type of guy the rest of the way.
Yeah. No, I mean, Taillon is somebody that's just, I'll play him against a good matchup, and I'll play him when it counts. He did a good job covering him. I don't know if I'm gonna have qualify him as my sixth. He's a guy that I'm definitely willing to stream on and off. He isn't blowing me away, but at the same time, he has been great again and taking advantage of good matchups. So I like Taillon.
Underlying stuff looks pretty good too. I didn't mention it, but he's getting good, movement on his pitches, and a lot of the underlying stuff does look pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we could break that down real quick. Like, I get it. His xERA is a 3.56. He's getting guys to chase a little bit. He's not walking guys. He's, not giving up too much hard contact. But the things that kind of are sticking out to me is, he's not creating a lot of ground balls, and he's not really like getting the K numbers, and his fastball isn't something that's blow you away. And his average exit velocity is at 89.3. So he is giving up hard when it is hard contact, when he is giving that up, it is on the higher end. So like those are the parts that's like it has a lot of volatile outcomes, right? He's been consistent recently, but if that doesn't swing where he's able to lower the contact on the average exit velocity, then I'm gonna say he's again still gonna be somebody that you can trust in and have him take advantage of a bad matchup. But good matchups, I'm gonna be a little bit hesitant unless I'm in a position where I need the counting stats, you know. But I'm going to move on. We're going to talk about Drew Thorpe, somebody that has been really successful, one of my favorite pitching prospects this year. You know, again, we all knew that he wasn't going to go and be this, blow you away guy that strikes out absolutely everybody because his fastball is only about 91 miles per hour, and he lives between the fastball and the changeup. But he's doing everything right. xERA is a 3.56. His real ERA right now is a 3.58, right on par. Batting average against him right now, his batting average is 214. Average exit velocity is 85.1 miles per hour. That's fantastic. He's not allowing guys to barrel up. He is definitely not allowing a lot of hard contact. I wish he would create a little bit more ground balls, but he's right on the precipice of being okay. And he's just really successful with his pitches, right? Like his changeup is literally unhittable. It has a batting average of 156. His four-seam fastball has a batting average of 184. His cutter has a batting average of 214. Even his slider a 133, and his sweeper is 0. Now, the last two pitches he's barely thrown, probably about 13% and 3.8% of the time. He really does live with the changeup and four-seamer. But when he does mix in the other pitches, he also is successful with it. Drew Thorpe just is a guy that can place the ball exactly where he needs it to be, get you off pace, and then get the put away. So Drew Thorpe is somebody I'm adding right now everywhere. The Chicago White Sox, I forgot to mention that. And Drew Thorpe is 26% owned. Add him now.
Yeah, man, I always love me a good reason to talk about Drew Thorpe. I'm so mad that he's not a New York Yankee, doing the success. Because we certainly could use him right now. We definitely could use him. But, he did a great job breaking him down. I will say this. His last 4 starts for Drew Thorpe, he's gone at least 6 innings in all of them. I love to see him giving us that length. For a young guy like this, it's super impressive. As I mentioned, he's not really going to be a big strikeout guy, but at 6'4", 212, I love the frame on him. And just really, really is a guy that can get it done. So at that 26% owned, should be at least 60, 70% owned. I know there's a lot of us looking for starting pitchers, but I think we do have time to sneak in at least this last guy here. Let's talk some Tobias Myers of the Milwaukee Brewers. I believe I brought him up, or we brought him up at least once before on this podcast. And the kid's just been quietly really good. 13 starts for Myers on the year, 6 wins, a 3.13 ERA with a 1.13 whip, 72 innings, 62 strikeouts. His last start on July 10th, Myers went out against the Pirates, went 8 innings, got the win, 6 strikeouts, did not give up a run, and had a 0.63 whip. Had another 8-inning start back on June 7th that has a bunch of 6-inning starts. This kid isn't going to just be phenomenal, but just another starting pitcher that's, I think, a bit under-owned in a day and age where so many pitchers have gone down with injuries and, pitching just hasn't been as good as it was earlier in the year. He's getting good results. Oh, excuse me one second.
Sorry. So, yeah, he is getting good results right now. And, ultimately, you look at what he's done this year and you're like, wow, that's pretty good. The only thing I could say is his minor league track record isn't really my favorite. Yes, before he got the call, this year in minors. He had a 1.45 ERA through 18 innings, but that's such a little sample size. You go back to like 23, he had a 4.93 ERA, 22 a 7.82, but through 76 innings. He's a guy that like I like what he's putting out on the field now, but he's not a guy I'm going to look to lean on long term. His xERA is a 3.98. He's getting guys to quasi chase. His fastball isn't, going to blow you away with the speed. He's not really striking guys out. He isn't walking a lot of guys, but he isn't producing ground balls, and he's not, depleting the or keeping down the hard hit percentage either. He's allowing guys to barrel up. So I'll start him in a spot start, or if it's a good matchup that I think he could take advantage of. But I don't think he's a guy that I'm going to consider going long term. There's too many factors that kind of scare me with him, and it just, yeah. So
yeah, I'm right there with you on that. I don't think he's a long-term solution, but while the pitches are getting good results, and he's just giving you length, and like I said, stuff you're not seeing from as many pitchers as you were earlier in the year. 44% owned Milwaukee Brewers starting pitcher Tobias Myers is definitely somebody we could at least give a chance for now. But with that being said, guys, we are going to head out for today. Please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Also, there's a chance on Subtext if you haven't already. Link is in bio wherever you're listening or watching. And just make sure you look out for a new episode tomorrow. So until then, guys, see you.
Peace.